The last thing that we talked about today in class, and today is October the 23rd, is electron dot structures. And so an electron dot structure is pretty easy. You draw the symbol, step one, and then you draw the number of valence electrons around it as dots. That's why it's electron dot. The dots represent the electrons. Now, that means you need to remember how to determine the number of valence electrons. So if we look at nitrogen, the symbol for nitrogen is a capital letter N. Nitrogen is in group 15, or column, the vertical column 15, which means it'll have 5 valence electrons. And so that means we put 5 dots around it. Now, the one rule that you need to remember is that each side gets a dot. Each side gets a dot before adding a second. Okay, so that is important. So as we're looking at this one, nitrogen has 5, so we'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So each of the 4 sides has one of them, and then I'll partner up the 5th one there. Okay, and that's how you would draw it correctly. Not so bad. So if we look at lithium, lithium is Li, okay? It has 1 valence electron because it's in column 1, which means it has 1 dot. Now, for this 1 dot, it would be okay to write it there, or write it on the side, or write it underneath. It doesn't really matter where you start it. I just kind of always start at the top, but that's just me. I'm a creature of habit. Now, you would repeat that for these next A through F. Now, G through L gets a little different because these say that they are ions, right? And so you need to know what is going to happen. So as a refresher, a cation loses electrons and has a positive charge. Okay, an anion is going to gain electrons and will be negative. And so if we look at letter G, the fluorine ion, well, fluorine is F, and normally fluorine would have 7 valence electrons, and according to the octet rule, they want 8. And so you remember, they're all or nothing. They either want 8 or they want 0, whichever one is going to be easier. And so fluorine could either gain 1 valence electron to become 8, or it could lose 7 to become 0. Be much faster to gain 1. And so that would mean that ion, okay, it would form an anion with a total of 8 electrons. And so it would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. However, we would also write a -1 charge because it has an extra electron. Now if we look at I, potassium ion, potassium symbol is K, and normally it has 1 valence electron. However, when it forms an ion, it's going to form a cation, which means it's going to lose that electron. And so instead of potassium normally having that 1 valence electron, it loses it, so the electron goes away, and we have a +1 charge. And so we can see that cations are going to have 0 dots, and anions should have 8 dots. The question that you need to ask yourself is which one will it form? Okay, and you have to know the original number of valence electrons if it was not an ion. And so that is how you write electron dot structures, and you can finish the rest for homework.